Getting close to the end of the year. Sun's still out on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. You know, I've been spending like the last minute and a half trying to play up the lighting and everything like that. Maybe what happens if we went with a filler light, and what happens if we move the spot over to there and then we reversed this, give a more diffused look. Nah, screw it. All right, so hi, my name's Charles Ray Dawson, associate broker and residential sales manager for ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 99. Recorded today on December 22nd, the day after solstice and 3 days from Christmas. I hope you got your Christmas shopping done. I have finally gotten mine done, and we're moving on. So this episode, we're going to cover Cromford numbers, a little bit of news going on in the world. We're going to cover how, the part 3 of our business planning side, and then we'll just wrap it up to the end. So let's start at the top. All right. It's the end of the year. Market is slowed. We've been looking at reports were coming in saying that we were having one of the lowest Novembers for sales volume on record, and that's just, we were all expecting this, so that's not really here nor there. Still some interesting numbers. People anticipating a better first quarter of 2023 than we've seen a fourth quarter of 2022, and I'm like, that'd probably be hard to beat. And I'm still seeing the doom and gloom. Oh my God, it's the new '08 and everything like that, and we're all going to crash and drop. And I can't rebut that any more than I already have. It's getting to the point where I'm just getting bored sitting there and going, yeah, boss, you do you. Stand by. Here comes those big deals and everything like that. And it's just, like I said, once again, the fundamentals aren't there. The fundamentals that we had before, the unusual financing that we had before, lenders did a lot better job of making sure that people were actually qualified for the loans that they were giving them, unlike back in '04 where we had the infamous ninja loans. People don't seem to get past that. People can't really conceptualize really how pricing and everything goes, and how market volatility kicks in. And that's why we have economists. Right? I am not an economist. Right? I am very interested in economics, and I spend way more time than I should listening to various economists espouse about various things. But like I said, when you look at what the professionals are saying as opposed to your crazy Uncle Bob on Twitter, you can really, really see the difference, both in understanding of the facts used. So, I am personally very optimistic towards 2023. I think even 2024 is going to be better than that. I've just driving on the way in here, I was listening to Peter Zeihan, and he was giving a presentation at the University of Iowa. And whenever he does these university presentations, he always tends to talk about maybe a quarter to the third of his presentation is going to be on those specific state interests and stuff. And I if he was down here at ASU, I would be there. I would be in line to see him present Arizona in the future. He did do one in Texas, and I think a lot of the issues that he talked about that benefited Texas and what's going on tracks over to what's going on in Arizona. I think that's a really good sign. And if I can find that episode, I'll attach it on the show notes below to make sure you get a chance at that. But his big thing is because of the, how do I want to describe this? Because of the demographics and population that is changing as various populations age, especially in China. You're going to see an onshoring of manufacturing. And because of our location in Mexico, it is going to make a lot of economic sense with the new NAFTA to start seeing a lot of companies going into Mexico, especially on the Mexican-American border. And we're going to start seeing more goods and services where some assemblies will be built in Mexico, shipped across the border to Phoenix, various places in Texas for final assembly, or reverse. We got 2 chip plants coming in. we can take those chips, ship them down to Mexico, and have semi-skilled Mexican labor do the final assembly, ship it back across the border for sale, or ship it overseas. There's a lot of the longs that he's talking about. So, for the long-term picture of what's going on here in Arizona and Phoenix, I think we're looking really, really good, as long as we don't turn into Orange County East, which I really do know I get the feeling that the Phoenician government, our mayor and our city council, really would like to take all the best, worst practices from California and start implementing them here in the downtown area. Think bike lanes. Yeah, bike lanes. Bike lanes are great and wonderful, unless you are the person working next to the person who rode their bike into work today. All right. And especially in June, July, August, September, what we call the death months. And the idea that people are going to voluntarily ride their bikes into work and then ride their bikes home in that weather is just amazing. I would love to be sitting there at a city council meeting and ask the question to the city council, how many of you guys ride bikes into work today? You probably didn't, did you? So let's quit getting rid of good travel lanes so we can add bike lanes on, because it doesn't do us any good. But editorial aside, really do think we're looking into a good place over here in Phoenix, and we're going to cover that not next week's episode. Next week's episode is going to be episode 100, and we're going to do the final wrap up of business planning and everything like that. But the first episode of next year, we're going to go back in time using the Wayback Machine, and I'm going to pull up last year's, where I made all those grand projections and whatnot, and I'm going to grade myself and find out how much I suck. Right? And then I'm going to give you a whole new list of projections of what I think next year's going to be, 2023. And then, since I just told you how well I did on 2022, you can decide whether or not you want to believe me on 2023, or just go change the channel and watch cat videos or something like that. So let's take a look at the numbers first. And now the numbers for December 21st, 2022. Actives this week are 17,558, down 527 from the week before. New listings were 1,190, down 133 from the week before. Pendings last week were 1,007, down 64. Under contracts looking for backups are 572, down 20. Contracts with buyer contingency are at 73. At 20, up 20 from the week before. Closings last week were 1,445, and coming soon to MLS near you are 387. Cromford report numbers had a huge jump in demand, or at least relatively. We are at 71.2 in demand and at 76.4. That was a delta change from last week of about 4 points. Definitely put us in a balanced market territory. And that's why I wanted to discuss these numbers with you. These are the individual Cromford report ratings for the various areas. As you can see, we got Fountain Hills leading the pack right now at 153.8. Buyer's market, very much a seller's market. Sorry about that. Remember, the bigger the number, the more it favors the seller. So Fountain Hills, Cave Creek, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, all is still in seller's territory. And then for the balanced markets on this, we're looking at Chandler, Phoenix, Glendale, and Tempe. Almost there, but not quite yet. But let's take a look at the delta, the changes on one of these things. Paradise Valley went up 14%. Now, Paradise Valley is a small area, so they tend to swing wider and more variable because there's a lower amount of data or individual houses in there. You'll see this a lot with high-level houses where, if you're only selling 5 houses on average in an area, and then one week you sell 6 houses, well, oh my God, we went up 20%. Not really, but with Paradise Valley sitting there at 14, Chandler, much better market to track, right? Chandler actually went up 12% to 94.4. That blew them out of a seller's market and put them right into or buyer's market and put them right in the middle of a balanced market. Phoenix entered a balanced market, all right, 4% up at 91.8, and Glendale 11 points jumped up, 91.6. I'm actually starting to wonder how much of that might be people, buying a house really quick for the Super Bowl so they can Airbnb it out. We see this around the Super Bowls. Glendale always takes that sudden spike right there. And then next, you're going to see a lot of rentals coming out on the property. So we'll see if that little trend hangs. Tempe went up 6 from 80 to 86, right? Now we're in the buyer's market though, but definitely a strong move. Gilbert, strong move, up 13%. Mesa, up 3%. And then Avondale at 17%, right? I think they are indeed the biggest change. And remember, they used to be at 65.8, right? So for those people out there, are 3 losing. All right, Scottsdale went down 4%. Goodyear went down 11%. They're the biggest loser this week. Maricopa down 3%. And your deals out there again, we're looking at Goodyear, especially with that drop down that far. Goodyear, Maricopa, Queen Creek, Buckeye. If you're a buyer and you're looking for the deals, that's where you want to be hunting around for. Other number I wanted to show you is that we have, this is a monthly average sales price per square foot. All right, on this, what we can see is there's that spike April, May. All right, and remember, I always say is that last week of March is when you really saw, last weekend of March, first weekend of May. That's when you all of a sudden saw the market start dying out. All right, and there was that little sudden spike right there. Boom, hits to a price point nobody wants to buy at that point. And I think a lot of that had to do with inertia coming up from this run up, because that looks like a pretty normal run up right there. All right, and then peak over, and now we moving back down. We were actually at the point this week, wrapping up, where we are almost at this point last year. We are reversing all of our gains that we have had. That will make 2022 basically just a push. Now, did people lose money? All right, in 2022. You did if you bought in May. You did if you bought in June. All right, not if you bought last year. All right. Is this downward trend going to continue? And that's what we're talking about. I think it's going to continue down through the first, beginning of next quarter. All right, next quarter, first quarter, January 2023, and we'll start recovering. Because the next number you need to see after this next chart is our mortgage rates. All right, as we were talking about, we hit 7, scared the hell out of everybody. Everybody disappears. All right. It started slowing down all the way back here when we were in the 5s. All right, because remember, we're in the 5s, then we hit 6s, and people just didn't want to buy 6. 7, completely gone. But as you can see, since then, we've been trending out, really seriously since November 3rd. Our interest rates that are being charged, have been trending down. And you can find occasional vendors out there who are going to be having their rates in, say, high 5s, low 6s. There's always going to be a big asterisk on the end of that thing going, with 20% down plus closing costs and points and whatnot. But that's that's what everybody that I'm following, constantly seeing, is saying that's what's going to happen. All right, those rates are still coming down. The Fed is already signaling they're going to stop changing the interest rates. They're still planning on going up, but they're going to slow the speed that they go up, and they're eventually thinking about ending that whole thing out. And that's, once they're done trying to save us from the perils of inflation by driving us into a recession, that's when you'll start seeing those rates, them stop messing with the Fed lending rate, and then the market will be able to churn and figure out what the hell they want to have the 30-year fixed being. So that's where we're at. So long story short, I think it's going to be a good year next year. I really do. It's definitely not going to be the numbers of the last 2 years. All right. Definitely not going to be the numbers of, like, say, 2021, which was just insane. But we might we're starting to see balanced markets again. All right. In that big Cromford chart that I like to show you guys constantly. I wonder if I could actually find that real quick. Give me just a second here. Okay, here's a chart I was talking about. This is a demand index and Cromford supply index. This is the numbers I've been running, showing you the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and, comparing the two numbers together. This chart was last made this July. All right, so about 4 or 5 months ago. All right, and you can see that we were on that downward trend where our demand index, people looking for houses, were starting to drop, and we can see that started to drop right there with the hit in interest rates. You see a little seasonal adjustment right there. This spike right here that you're seeing, that's COVID. That was the COVID lockdown that we did back in 2020, that in early March, when we all decided to stay home for 2 weeks, and a whole bunch of those iBuyers, now are iSellers, suddenly canceled every contract that they had on the books. They lost their earnest money. They just say, hey, yeah, we're not buying that house. Go get them kids. A whole bunch of buyers decided to can't get out of their contracts. A whole bunch of houses came back on the market because the sellers still wanted to sell. And a whole bunch of people decided, hey, maybe not yet. Right? That's that little spike right there. All right. Bam. Everybody's hunkering down. We went that way for 2 weeks. And then we came up for 1 week, hit the same levels we were before, and then all of a sudden people realized that when you're working from home, it's one thing to sleep next to a person. It's a completely different thing when you have to work next to them at the kitchen table, and they're on their Zoom call and you're on your Zoom call, and you need to get a house because you need to get space to get away from that person, and you need to get a room to lock those kids in when they're supposed to be getting remote educated. And that's when demand just peaked, and all of a sudden we saw that really big run up. Right, that was the post recovery, or that COVID change of lifestyle spike that happened. Well, what's happened since then? Right, holiday season, first run holiday seasons, and then it starts coming up. And you can see we were already low on supply that entire time. Supply is on its way down, and has been, because ultimately back here, when we had a lot of supply, not a lot of houses, people kept building houses all the way till about here. So on this chart, where are we today? We're right here in 2014, where supply and demand are in the 80s and 90s. All right. And this is called a balanced market, boys and girls. That's what we're looking at. Right. That's what we're projecting to see continue on through the rest of the year. And hey, with the amount of inventory we have on the market, I mean, it's sitting pretty. All right. I mean, definitely a lot more houses to choose from than we've seen in the last 2 years. All right. Get those interest rates coming down into the fives, things will start kicking back loose. Fives were interest rates back here. People were happy to buy a house at 5%. Now, are you going to be buying the same house that you did, back then? No, because price per square foot, medium home values have gone up since then, and we're not going to see those retract. But, this is going to be the new normal. Sorry about this whole little segue thing I just spun out on. It's just a lot of that is what I was planning to talk about in the next 2 weeks. But okay, just to wrap everything up and hit the road, we are now looking at stage 3 of our planning, the actual how. We covered why are we doing this. All right, the big why. I want to, I really should have come up with a scenario that I could have built on for the last 3 weeks, but let's say you have a newborn daughter and you want to live to walk her down that aisle. All right, and you're thinking, I got to be alive for at least 18 years before that can happen. 15 in Kentucky, but here in Arizona, at least 18 years before I can walk this little squalling thing down the aisle. So I need to make sure that I'm alive. That's my big why. Right? What am I going to do about that? I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to lose the gut, quit smoking, whatever the hell it is. Eat better, eat some fiber, maybe even exercise. Right? Right. That's going to be the what. Now we're going to talk about the how. All right. So let's take this scenario. Bobby here, his big why is he has a daughter. Right? He wants to walk her down the aisle. So what is he going to do? He's going to become a healthier person. How is he going to do that? Right. This is where you start researching. All right, and this is where you start researching, hey, should I just diet? Maybe I should just exercise. How about this keto diet? All right, I hear a lot of good things about that. Oh, I hear that's useless. Everybody needs to go vegetarian. I will not be here in 18 years if I go vegetarian, because sooner or later I will start a shotgun, because nobody wants to live life as a vegetarian. All right, so that's off the picture. All right, how do we get ourselves healthier? All right. Once we've developed the plan of how are we going to get ourselves healthier, it needs to be itemized. You need to have objective metrics that you can track, like your weight. Right? I'm 245 right now. I want to be under 200. Right? And you can start tracking those numbers. Right? And that number will help you hold your accountability and everything to that. So, maybe you want to go there and say, I want to be close to what I was back in college, right? Back in college, I was 119 actually I was 120 pounds in college. I don't want to go back to 120 pounds. All right. But still, let's say we want to go back to our college weight, our college workout, stuff like that. All right. And with these what's that you were working on, all right, I'm going to hypothetically lift weights 3 times a week. I'm going to start with baby weights. All right. Maybe go get the pink ones from your wife. They're in the closet. All right. Because she went on this thing about a couple weeks ago or a couple years ago, then put them back in the closet and forgot all about them or whatever. And don't laugh at her because you probably got a couple hobbies in that same closet that you did for a week and a half and decided not to follow up on. This is important. All right. But you're going to start with those and you're going to build out your war plan, your game plan. How are we going to progress from point A to point B? All right. I'm going to start with these weights. I'm going to start at every morning. I'm going to do these 6 exercises. All right. And I'm going to start with the pink weights, and I'm going to do 8 reps. And then I'm going to do another exercise for 8 reps. And I'm going to go back to the first exercise and do 8 reps. And then go back to that second exercise, and do that until I've done 3 sets of 8. And then I'm going to go to the next 2 exercises. And I'm going to continue on. This is a game plan. This is how you progress along these things. Hell. You know, since just because we're rocking and rolling here today, and you can't see what I'm throwing up on the screen just yet, let me just see if I can find a workout program that I came up with a long time ago. All right, to see if this actually pulls up, and if you can actually see it. All right, this is what I did to plan my the COVID lockdown exercise. All right, now. And this is the kind of chart that I do. I think in spreadsheets, all right? So I had push-ups with a cross. I had butt lifts. I have no idea what those are called. I just call them butt lifts. Crunches, Arnold press, dumbbell sit-ups, bent over fly, curls, tricep extensions, raised arm flies, and squats. All right. These are everything I did, all right? I did each one in 3 sets, all right? Started with whatever weight. Pay no attention to the very small numbers right there. But this was what I was starting out at, all right? And then I also had a little chart over here going what muscle groups those all work. Now, since then, I've been able to replace it with other exercises in different ways. So I'm not sitting there trying to do 6, 8 different exercises over the course of my morning. I can pretty much do it all in 3. All right. And just hit my 3 sets of these 3 exercises, as many reps with the weights that, you know, I've worked my way up to, and I'm just off to the rest of the day. So that's a good example of how to do a how. All right. And this translates over to any other or what your big plan is going to be. All right. If you want to generate 20% more sales, this is how you're figuring out, okay, I'm going back and looking what generated bulk of my sales last year. All right. Was it social media? Was it the mailers that you sent out? Was it the email blast campaign? Was it begging and pleading? All right. Was it that Grinder account that you set up? I don't care what the hell you used for that. All right. But you're going to look back and you're going to sit there. Okay, what worked for me? What am I going to do more of or different that's going to gain me that 20% more sales next year or whatever that your project is. So that's your homework assignment for now that you know why you're doing it. Now you know what you want to do. Now let's start writing and figure out how are we going to do that. Next week, we're going to discuss when. So, all right, and that wraps it up. Christmas is this Sunday, and unfortunately, one of my buyers, I am not going out looking at houses for you on Sunday, right, because it's Christmas. But Merry Christmas. Watch your kids and pets around the water. All right, because when you're having that Christmas party, just because nobody's swimming in the pool doesn't mean the pool doesn't like kids swimming in it. And kids running around might fall into it. So watch your pets and animals and children around the pool. Work your circles. Have a Merry Christmas. And I'll see you guys.